Imagine sitting in your locked home. You are completely alone, or so you think. You lock the doors, you check the windows, you sit down in your comfortable chair to stream a casual video to your friends. Then, thousands of people watch live as you step out of the frame. You simply vanish. No struggle, no forced entry, just an empty chair, a running webcam, and a mystery that would completely paralyze the internet. This is not a movie script. This is a chilling reality, a disappearance so baffling it forced millions of people to double-check their own locks at night. When 24-year-old Maya vanished on a cold November evening, the police force was completely stumped. The digital trail made zero sense. The physical evidence was practically non-existent. But the internet never sleeps. Web detectives, true crime junkies, and cybersecurity experts all united to solve a puzzle that local authorities could not figure out. What they found hidden in plain sight will make you question how safe you really are in your own residence. Because the truth behind Maya and her empty chair is darker than anyone could have ever guessed. Maya lived in a quiet suburban neighborhood in Seattle. She had a great job in the tech industry. She lived a completely normal, quiet life. She was the kind of person who always texted you back. She always showed up for coffee dates. She was incredibly reliable. Her friends described her as cautious. She never walked alone at night. She always carried pepper spray. She had a top-tier security system installed in her home. She was not the kind of person to just disappear, but she also had a hobby. Maya was a relatively popular online streamer. She would sit at her computer for hours. She chatted with viewers. She played video games. She shared stories about her daily life. She loved her online community. It was her safe space. But sometimes, safe spaces are an illusion. We think a screen protects us from the outside world. We forget that a screen is also a window, and someone was looking through that window. Let us go back to the night everything changed. It was November 12th, a Tuesday. Seattle was getting pounded by heavy freezing rain. The wind was howling outside Maya's window. At 8 o'clock in the evening, she went live. Her video title was simple: just chatting on a rainy night. Around 4,000 people tuned in to watch. Everything seemed totally normal. Maya was wearing a heavy gray sweater. She was sipping hot tea from a large yellow mug. She laughed at jokes in the chat. She talked about her long workday. Then, she complained a little bit about a strange smell in her home. She said it smelled like old, damp clothes. She also mentioned that she felt extremely tired. She said she was not sleeping well lately. She kept waking up feeling like someone was watching her in the dark. The chat brushed it off. They told her it was just the gloomy weather. They told her to get some rest after the stream. At exactly 9:14 in the evening, things took a strange turn. Maya suddenly stopped talking mid-sentence. Her eyes darted toward her hallway. She tilted her head. She was listening intently. The microphone on her desk was highly sensitive. Viewers could hear the heavy rain hitting the glass outside. But they also heard something else. A very faint sound. A low, slow creak. It sounded like a floorboard groaning under heavy weight. Maya asked the chat if they heard that noise. A few people typed yes. Others said it was just the wind. Maya stood up. She told the chat she would be right back. She walked out of the camera's view. Her yellow mug sat on the desk. Steam was still rising from the hot tea. The camera kept rolling. The microphone kept recording. 1 minute passed. Then 2 minutes. The chat started making jokes. They said she was checking under her bed for monsters. 5 minutes passed. The jokes slowly stopped. 10 minutes passed. A wave of unease washed over the viewers. People started typing her name in all caps. They begged her to come back to the screen. 20 minutes went by. The steam stopped rising from the tea. The screen showed just an empty chair in a quiet room. At the 30-minute mark, viewers heard another sound. It was not a floorboard this time. It was a sharp, metallic click. It sounded exactly like a deadbolt sliding into place. But it did not come from the front door. It sounded like it came from inside the room, right next to the microphone. Then, Silence. Total, heavy silence. Viewers began calling the local authorities immediately. The police dispatch in Seattle received dozens of frantic calls from all over the globe. People in London, Tokyo, and New York were all calling. They reported a potential crime in progress in Washington state. Officers arrived at Maya's residence exactly 42 minutes after she walked out of the frame. The entire time, thousands of people were still watching the empty chair. The viewers heard a loud knock on the front door. They heard the officers shout for Maya to open up. No answer. The officers eventually kicked the heavy wooden door open. The viewers heard heavy boots walking through the home. Then 2 police officers walked into the frame of the webcam. They looked confused. They looked around the room with flashlights. One officer leaned into the microphone. He asked if anyone was listening to him. The chat exploded with thousands of messages. The officer reached forward and turned the camera off. The screen went completely black. The official investigation began that very second. But detectives ran into an impossible wall. The front door had been deadbolted from the inside. The back door was locked from the inside. All the windows were sealed shut and locked tightly. The security cameras outside the building showed absolutely no one entering or leaving the property that entire night. Maya was simply gone. Her purse was still sitting on the kitchen counter. Her car keys were right next to it. Her winter coat was hanging in the closet. The only thing missing from the entire home was her cell phone. The police searched every single inch of the residence. They brought in tracking dogs. The dogs caught her scent in the hallway, but the scent just stopped abruptly near a small closet. It was as if she had evaporated into thin air. Days turned into weeks. The local news covered the story intensely, but they quickly moved on to other things. The authorities had absolutely no leads. They had 0 suspects. They started leaning toward the theory that Maya ran away voluntarily. They suggested she might have staged the whole thing for internet attention. They said she probably slipped out a window, locked it behind her somehow, and vanished on purpose to go viral. Maya's family refused to believe that theory. And more importantly, the internet refused to believe that theory. This is exactly where the story gets incredibly dark. When the official authorities hit a dead end, the internet took over the hunt. A massive community of amateur sleuths formed on message boards and chat forums. They downloaded every single video Maya had ever posted online. They downloaded hundreds of hours of her archived live streams. They decided to analyze every single frame of footage. They were looking for tiny clues. They were looking for absolutely anything out of the ordinary. For 3 weeks, they found nothing. Just a normal girl living a normal, quiet life. But then, an anonymous user made a chilling discovery. This user was looking at a stream from 3 weeks before Maya vanished. In the background of her video, there was a small, round mirror hanging on the wall. The mirror reflected a tiny sliver of the hallway ceiling outside her room. In that ceiling, there was a square wooden panel. It was an access hatch to the attic. The user zoomed in on the hatch. He enhanced the brightness of the video. He increased the contrast. He posted a side-by-side comparison image for the whole forum to see. In a video from August, the hatch was perfectly flush with the ceiling. The screws were painted over in white. But in the video from late October, just weeks before she vanished, the hatch was completely different. It was pushed up slightly. The paint around the screws was heavily chipped. Someone had opened that hatch. The internet exploded with this terrifying new information. They started looking for more clues related to the attic hatch. Another user found an audio clip from a stream in early November. Maya was playing a loud, chaotic video game. But the user isolated the background audio. They digitally removed all the game sounds. Beneath the digital noise, there was a faint, rhythmic sound. It was breathing. Slow, heavy, human breathing. And it was coming from directly above her room. The horrifying truth was staring millions of people right in the face. Maya did not have a stalker outside her home. She had a stalker living inside her home. The internet introduced the masses to a terrifying concept known as phrogging. This is when a person secretly moves into someone else's home, completely undetected by the owner. They live in the attic, the basement, or the crawl space. They sleep during the day while you are at work. They come out at night, While you are asleep, they eat your food, they use your shower, they watch you sleep. And in Maya's terrifying case, this unseen intruder had been living in her ceiling for at least a full month. The online community immediately sent this massive folder of evidence to the Seattle authorities. The police rushed back to the residence with weapons drawn. They climbed up to the hallway ceiling. They pushed the wooden access panel open. What they found inside will haunt those veteran officers forever. The attic was small, dark, and extremely cramped. It smelled strongly of old, damp clothes. This was the exact smell Maya complained about on her final, fateful stream. Inside the attic, there was a filthy sleeping bag laid out on the insulation. There were dozens of empty food wrappers from her own kitchen. And there was a small peephole. The intruder had drilled a tiny, invisible hole through the floorboards. The hole was positioned perfectly above Maya's bed. He had been watching her sleep every single night for weeks. But Maya was not in the attic, and the intruder was long gone. The police did find one crucial piece of evidence left behind in that dark crawl space. It was a cheap black burner laptop. The device was heavily encrypted with military-grade software. It took cyber experts 3 grueling days to crack the password. When they finally unlocked the screen, they uncovered a digital nightmare that defied belief. The laptop was entirely dedicated to obsessing over Maya. There were thousands of screenshots from her streams saved in folders. But there was also something far more sinister. The intruder had installed hidden cameras inside her home while she was at work. He had microscopic cameras in her kitchen, her living room, and her bathroom. He was broadcasting these live feeds to a highly secure server on the dark web. He was not just watching her. He was selling digital tickets for other sick individuals to watch her live her daily life. The authorities realized this was not a random crime of opportunity. This was a highly organized digital stalking operation. The intruder chose Maya specifically because she lived alone and shared so much of her routine online. He used her own videos to study the exact layout of her home. He learned her daily schedule. He knew exactly when she left for her tech job. He used that time to break in, install his hidden cameras, and set up his twisted nest in the attic. But the most important discovery on that burner laptop was a single, active network signal. The computer was still communicating with a remote server. The police cyber unit traced the signal immediately. It pinged to an abandoned industrial warehouse on the outskirts of Tacoma, Washington, about 40 miles south of Seattle. This was it. The absolute climax of a nationwide hunt. Dozens of heavily armed tactical officers descended on the Tacoma warehouse. It was midnight. The rain was pouring down violently, exactly like the night Maya vanished. The officers surrounded the perimeter quietly. The warehouse looked completely abandoned. The windows were smashed to pieces. The metal siding was rusted and falling apart. But a thermal drone flying overhead detected a very faint heat signature. It was coming from below the concrete ground level. There was a hidden underground basement. The tactical team breached the front doors with a battering ram. They moved in total silence through the dark, empty warehouse floor. They found a heavy steel door hidden behind a massive pile of wooden shipping pallets. It was locked from the outside with a heavy chain. The team used a hydraulic cutting tool to force the steel door open. They descended a set of steep, concrete stairs into the pitch-black basement. The air was thick, stale, and freezing cold. At the bottom of the stairs, they found another door. This one was completely covered in thick, soundproofing foam. An officer kicked the foam-covered door open. The team shined their blinding tactical lights into the room. Sitting in a chair in the corner of the room was a man. He was staring at a massive wall of glowing computer monitors. He was completely surrounded by digital screens showing feeds from all over the country. He did not even flinch when the armed officers rushed into the room. He just slowly raised his hands in the air. The officers tackled him to the ground violently. They cuffed him immediately. But the lead detective ignored the man on the floor entirely. His eyes were frantically scanning the dark room. He was looking for Maya. In the far corner of the room, hidden behind a makeshift wall of heavy black curtains, there was a metal cage. Inside that cage, huddled under a thin, dirty blanket, was Maya. She was terrified. She was pale. She was severely malnourished, but she was breathing. She was alive. The officers broke the padlock off the cage. They wrapped her in a heavy police jacket and carried her out of that digital dungeon. She had been trapped in that freezing underground room for 21 agonizing days. During the intense police interrogation, the chilling details of that specific night finally came to light. The intruder confessed to absolutely everything without a shred of remorse. On the night Maya vanished on stream, he did not come down from the attic. He was already down. He had slipped out of the ceiling while she was in the bathroom earlier that evening. He hid silently in the hallway coat closet. When Maya heard that creaking floorboard on her stream, she got up to investigate the noise. She walked right past the closet door. The intruder grabbed her from behind instantly. He covered her mouth tightly. He used a strong, chemical-soaked rag to render her unconscious almost immediately. That was exactly why there was no struggle heard on the microphone. That was why the chair was left completely empty on the stream. But how did he get her out of a locked home? The loud deadbolt click that viewers heard at the 30-minute mark was not someone locking the door to keep people out. It was the sound of the intruder unlocking the heavy deadbolt on the back door. He carried her unconscious body out the back exit. He then locked the door from the outside using a specialized, custom-made lockpicking tool he bought online. He vanished into the stormy night without a single trace. He drove her straight to the Tacoma warehouse in a stolen van. He planned to keep her locked in that cage forever. The man was a complete ghost in the real world. He had no social media accounts. He had no digital footprint of his own. He lived entirely through watching the lives of the innocent people he stalked. He told detectives that he chose Maya because she smiled so much on camera. He wanted to see if she still smiled when the cameras were forced off. It is a terrifying, sickening glimpse into the mind of a true predator. A predator who used the internet as his own personal hunting ground. Maya survived this horrific ordeal, but her reality is forever altered. She immediately moved out of Washington State. She deleted all of her social media accounts permanently. She no longer streams online. She no longer shares a single detail of her life with the outside world. She lives in an undisclosed location with reinforced steel doors, motion sensors in every room, and absolutely no attic access whatsoever. Her terrifying story serves as a brutal wake-up call for an entire generation. We constantly document everything we do. We share our morning coffees, our evening routines, and the exact layouts of our homes. We invite millions of anonymous strangers into our living rooms every single day. We assume that because they are behind a screen, they cannot physically reach out and touch us. We think the glass monitor keeps us safe from the real world. But the screen is not a shield. It is a detailed map. And out there in the vast, anonymous, dark ocean of the internet, there are predators who are carefully studying that map. They are learning your daily habits. They are listening to your casual complaints about strange smells or floorboards creaking in the night. They are actively looking for the blind spots in your home security. Maya's story broke the internet because it completely shattered our collective illusion of safety. It proved that the monsters do not just hide under the bed anymore. Sometimes, they watch your online stories. Sometimes, they follow your live streams. And sometimes, they are already waiting for you in the very place you feel the safest. Think about your own home right now. Think about the hidden access panels, the dark basements, the empty crawl spaces. When was the last time you actually checked them? When was the last time you turned off the television and really listened to the silence in your home? The next time you hear a floorboard creak when you are supposed to be completely alone, do not just brush it off as the wind. Pay close attention, because someone else might be paying close attention to you. If this chilling true crime story made you think twice about your own digital safety, make sure to hit that like button right now. Subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss a deep dive into the darkest, most twisted corners of the true crime world. Drop a comment below and tell me your honest thoughts on this insane case. Have you ever felt like someone was secretly watching you from the shadows? Stay vigilant, stay incredibly safe, and I will see you in the next mystery.